On June 10th of 1864, Union forces under the command of Sam Sturgis had pretty much got smoked by the Confederates under the command of Nathan Bedford Forrest at the Battle of Brice's Crossroads. And as Sturgis and the Union men were retreating west back to Memphis, well, this was going to be a little bit of a problem because this opened up Middle Tennessee for Forrest to go and basically disrupt the supply line that General Sherman had between Nashville and Chattanooga. And that wasn't going to fly. So Sherman was going to see to it that a man newly arrived to Memphis by the name of A.J. Smith with about over 14,000 Union troops was going to start making his way south to engage Nathan Bedford Forrest and kill him if possible. And where these forces are going to come together in an epic clash is going to be where I'm standing right now, outside of Tupelo, Mississippi. All right, well, we have moved to the west of Tupelo, and we're here along a tributary called Coonawa Creek. And there's an action that happens here that you can kind of think of as like the pre-show to the Battle of Tupelo. But first, it would probably be good to explain how we got here. In the last episode of History Traveler, we covered the Battle of Brice's Crossroads, in which Confederate forces under Nathan Bedford Forrest achieved a stunning victory under superior Union forces under General Samuel Sturgis. Following the loss on June 10, 1864, Sturgis and what was left of his Union forces made their way back to the outskirts of Memphis, Tennessee. Newly arrived to Memphis was General A.J. Smith, with about 6,000 men of the detachments of the 16th and 17th Corps who had just come off of the Red River campaign. With Sherman's supply line again vulnerable to attack from Nathan Bedford Forrest's cavalry, Smith was ordered to hunt down Forrest, devastate the land over which he had passed, and punish anyone who might have given him aid. On June 27th, with Forrest in Tupelo, Mississippi along the Mobile and Ohio Railroad, Smith's Union troops set out from Memphis, led by cavalry under Brigadier General Benjamin Grierson. After a brief stop in LaGrange to resupply, the combined Union force set out to the southeast on July the 5th. Meanwhile, Nathan Bedford Forrest withdrew from Tupelo and joined General Stephen Dill Lee to the south outside of Okolona in an attempt to draw Smith's forces south and catch them in a well-fortified trap. On July the 7th, Smith's forces made their way through Ripley where, following the order of Sherman to punish Forrest and those who supported him, the county courthouse, the Methodist and Presbyterian churches, and a number of other structures were burned. Now shifting to the south, Smith and Grierson began making their way to Petontic, where detachments of the Confederate cavalry had set up a roadblock with instructions to fall back and lure Union troops down to Okolona. Skirmishing occurred along the Pontotoc Ridge on July the 11th and 12th, but sensing a trap, A.J. Smith made the decision to shift his forces to the east and steal a march to the Mobile and Ohio Railroad in Tupelo to outflank Forrest and Lee. As I mentioned, we are currently standing to the west of Tupelo, and we're facing west right now. And if we were to follow this road on down, well, it would take us to the town of Pontotoc. And again, you've got A.J. Smith and the Union, rather than going south and falling into the trap of Forrest and Lee, well, they are going to cut east, and they're going to follow this road and steal a march from Pontotoc out to Tupelo. Now, as they are going, you have Nathan Bedford Forrest. Okay, they realize what's going on. Forrest is going to be sending troops up from the south, and they're going to be trying to hit A.J. Smith's Union troops in the right flank. And they are going to be continuing in this direction right here to the east, and are trying to make it up to some high ground to the west of Tupelo at a place called Harrisburg. All right, so as they are going along, well, they've got to worry about Nathan Bedford Forrest coming up from the rear. So acting as kind of a rear guard are soldiers from the USCT. All right, so it's still a pretty active road today. I'm in a bike lane. I hope I don't get smoked like an armadillo out here. But anyway, now, again, acting as rear guard, you have troops from the 59th, the 61st, and the 68th USCT, which stands for U.S. Colored Troops. All right, so these are black troops who are fighting for the Union, and they are basically delaying the Confederates. And this tributary right here is called Kunawa Creek, and you can see where this would act as a natural barrier. Anyway, wow, that Jeep was really loud. So we have a natural barrier right here to hold off any cavalry or any infantry, and forming up on the east side of the creek are going to be these men from the USCT. They're basically going to be holding off Nathan Bedford Forrest while the rest of the Union Army gets up to high ground and gets dug in and gets ready for a fight. And these guys performed exceptionally well. As a matter of fact, after the Battle of Tupelo, A.J. Smith himself wrote, he said, "The Colored Brigade fought excellently well and showed the effect of discipline and drill, and I am free to confess that their action has removed from my mind a prejudice of 20 years standing." So these guys fought so well that they took a man who maybe held some prejudices or maybe some racist ideas, and their actions here completely changed him. So I think that's pretty cool. So these guys fought really hard and held off Forrest. And meanwhile, up here on the high ground, up on this ridge, well, A.J. Smith was getting the rest of his Union troops ready for battle. All right, we're gonna go back up and go back into this urban area and get on this little square of battlefield and talk about what happened on July 14th. All right, now we have moved to the east and are currently in the area, technically Harrisburg. It's to the west of Tupelo. And right here along this line where I am currently standing on top of a ridge that overlooks the west is going to be where General A.J. Smith is going to form his line of battle. They're going to dig in right here and make a stand against any Confederate assault that is coming from the west. Now, one thing that we have to keep in mind when we are visiting this battlefield, we've lost a lot of this battlefield to urban sprawl. So we're gonna have to use our imaginations here a little bit. All right, now, again, we are really gonna have to use our imaginations here to picture what happened in this battle, because if you look, like this is the battlefield. this is pretty much what we have left. We're going to come back to these monuments and everything in just a moment. But as I mentioned, you have Union troops under the command of A.J. Smith who are going to be lined up here. All right, so we are facing to the west right now, and A.J. Smith is going to have his line of battle going from south to north. You're going to have a bunch of Iowa guys right in here. They're going to cross the road, and then they're going to make a 90-degree angle to refuse their right flank. Now, the cavalry under Grierson had already moved through here. They were going to advance on to the east and go into Harrisburg and then on to Tupelo, where they were basically going to secure Tupelo. In that mix is the 10th Missouri Cavalry. And in the 10th Missouri Cavalry was my great-great-great-grandfather, William Henry Woodruff. So I have an ancestor who was part of this battle. So it's, even though there's not a lot of the battlefield left, it's pretty cool for me to be here and know that my ancestor basically went right along this road and was part of the battle, was part of the skirmishing, you know, all the way down here, and helped to secure Tupelo. But anyway, on the morning of the battle of July 14th, again, you've got Wood and Ward's brigades right here, a bunch of Iowa guys, and the Confederates come up. Now, leading them is going to be Nathan Bedford Forrest's cavalry, and then General Lee's troops are going to be behind that. And they basically try and entice the Union to come down and attack them. That's not going to happen. So the Union troops are well entrenched in here on the high ground, and the Confederates have a problem. They kind of got a tiger by the ears, where they don't want to hold on to it, but they don't want to let it go either. They can't just leave these guys. Okay, so something has to be done with A.J. Smith's Union troops here. But at the same time, they can't bog down here because there are threats in other parts of this theater. So anyway, the decision is made to go ahead and launch an assault uphill on top of this ridge. Now, leading off the attack is going to be a brigade in the 2nd Division of Forrest Cavalry under the leadership of a guy by the name of Edward Crossland. Okay, so back over here, there's going to be a bunch of Kentucky troops, or Kentucky cavalry, who are going to be attacking off to our left. They are going to be brutally repulsed. So Forrest is watching them fall back down the hill, and he's thinking, may have some problems here. And then next, after that, well, there's going to be another brigade of Tennessee soldiers under the command of a guy by the name of, there's Mississippi soldiers next, under the command of a guy named Mabry. Okay, they are basically going to kind of go out here in front of us, and they're going to curl around and maybe trying to hook in from the north. Okay, they are also repulsed. All right, and then you're going to have Tennessee troops under a brigade led by Bell. Okay, they're going to be advancing from this direction, kind of hitting this corner. They are also going to be repulsed. And then following them, there's going to be a brigade from the 1st Division, led by a guy named Roddy. It's also going to be repulsed. So the Confederates are really kind of beating their heads up against this Union wall on the morning of July 14th. All right, now coming back to this memorial here, if you were driving through here in Tupelo, or again, technically Harrisburg, you wouldn't even know that there was a battle that had taken place here were it not for, you know, these cannon that are out here in this open space and this memorial. So here it says, in memory of the men of the Federal and the Confederate armies who took part in the Battle of Tupelo or Harrisburg, July 14th to 15th, 1864, which resulted in a Federal victory for the Federal forces under Major Andrew J. Smith. Now here's something on this little square of battlefield that is pretty interesting. And I'm going to go ahead and be honest, I don't know what's going on here. So here we see a grave marker for a First Lieutenant John J. Stone, Company H, 2nd Mississippi Infantry, Confederate States of America, and then it gives his date of birth, March 21st of 1811. And then his date of death there says March 25th of 1866. So I don't know what's going on here. Also, I've noticed a few stones down here with Roman numerals on them. So here's one with the Roman numeral 2 marked on it. And then if we walk over here, perhaps someone who knows more about the history of this battle will see this video and can maybe help me out a little bit. Here is another marker, and this one makes a little bit more sense to me. So here it says Second Lieutenant William N. Cox, Company A, 8th Mississippi Cavalry, Confederate States of America, and then his date of death, July 14th, 1864. And then there's more of these little stone markers with Roman numerals on them. But anyway, reasonable to assume that this guy was in the battle and was killed on the day of the battle, and that maybe the other was in the battle and then just wanted to be buried here. Yeah, I don't know. So on July 14th, the Union troops under A.J. Smith had decisively defeated Nathan Bedford Forrest and General Lee. And they had a choice at that point on the 15th, whether to pursue them and try and complete their victory, or to withdraw. Well, the problem that A.J. Smith had was that his troops were running low on rations. So the decision was made to withdraw from the battlefield and start heading north and making their way back to Memphis. But what A.J. Smith didn't know, as he was crossing a place called the Old Town Creek, was that the Battle of Tupelo was not quite over yet. All right, we have moved north to a stream called the Old Town Creek. So again, A.J. Smith is going to be withdrawing from the battlefield. Now, Lee and Forrest were thoroughly convinced that Smith was going to launch another attack on the 15th of July, and kind of waited around, waiting to see what was going to happen. And then found out that they were withdrawing to the north. So Old Town Creek is right over here, and guarding the rear of the Union Army as they are making their withdrawal, again, is going to be my great-great-great-grandpa's unit, the 10th Missouri Cavalry. So they are helping to hold off the Confederates. And Smith is going to get the bulk of his forces across the creek. So he's going to be over have most of his men over on the north side. Well, Forrest is basically going to get up here and is going to launch one heck of a surprise. They're going to have artillery that is going to fire into the corrals. And right here to the east of the road and to the south of Old Town Creek, well, you would have had Bell's Tennessee Regiment under Nathan Bedford Forrest that are going to be making a push and attacking over on this side of the road. And meeting them are going to be the 3rd Iowa and the 4th Iowa Regiments. So they are going to be trying to hold them off. If we were to cross the road here, we're actually going to play a little bit of Frogger and try not to get squished. Well, over on this side of the road was a cornfield, and in this cornfield, well, you are going to have Crossland's Kentucky troops who are going to be attacking, and meeting them are going to be Iowa troops from the 32nd and 27th and 14th Regiment. All right, so they are going to be crossing back over the creek to meet that threat, and are going to be successful in holding off the Confederates so that A.J. Smith and the Union can continue their march to the north. Ultimately, why does the Battle of Tupelo matter? Well, a lot of attention gets put on Sherman and his push in Chattanooga, and then eventually his push down to Atlanta. What we don't really put a lot of attention on is the fact that his supply line behind him had to be guarded. Forrest had just been wreaking havoc all throughout the Civil War and seemed to honestly be everywhere. And this Tupelo campaign that was led by A.J. Smith is going to be effective at essentially pinning down the Confederates here in Mississippi and allowing General Sherman to be successful on his push to the south towards Atlanta. Even though a lot of the battlefield has been lost in Tupelo, not here, but in town, I'm glad that we came here today. It also puts a little bit of an exclamation point going to the Tupelo battlefield in town on why battlefield preservation is important and why the work of organizations like the American Battlefield Trust is important. But anyway, being here has helped kind of expand my horizons a little bit. I know a little bit more about the Civil War and the big picture than what I did before, and also got to see another battlefield where my great-great-grandpa fought, great-great-great-grandpa fought with the 10th Missouri Cavalry. Yeah, all right. Well, I guess we are off now to the next place.